Having lost paradise, Karen returned to the frigid, gloomy north. She had spent her entire self on living a dream, and now she wondered if death would be her final expression of freedom.
I know that I can die happily. Let me take Ngong and everything that belongs to it in my arms and sink with it, and it will be without complaint, but with immense gratitude to life.
She was suicidally depressed when she left Africa, and she did make a suicide attempt. She didn't see that she had anything to live for. So it took incredible courage for her to go on, especially in the first months that she was back in this sort of gloomy house with her mother, who didn't know who this 46-year-old grief-stricken woman was, and who thought naively and lovingly that she could be consoled. She could not be consoled.
She did not unpack her African cases for 13 years. She buried her erotic life, and with monastic devotion assumed her life and destiny as an artist. Her syphilis returned, almost as if mere emotional suffering was not enough to fire her devotion. It attacked her spine and digestive system, making the ritual of eating her final eccentricity and tragedy. 3 years after her return from Africa, she published 7 Gothic tales. Many of her darkest and deepest feelings rose to the surface in these stories. She found freedom in the immoral and the fantastic, the way a distressed child takes refuge in fairy tales. To reestablish her identity, she asserted her deepest psychic assumptions, which she called Nemesis. She adopted a pseudonym, reclaiming her maiden name of Dennison and choosing the Hebrew name Isaac, which means the one who laughs. She treated desire as an exotic and insidious truth, and she romped through sin the way a young boy gallops to victory on a rocking horse. One of her characters explains that dreaming is the well-mannered people's way of committing suicide. In another 3 years, she turned her greatest disease into loveliness and published Out of Africa, which completed her transformation from an individual into a symbol.
She always said that you walk through snow and you don't quite know where you're going. Finally, if you get to a point where you can look down and see the path that you've made, there's a pattern to it, and it starts to make some sort of sense. She could look at her own life and digest those experiences and get wisdom from it.
In 1985, the film Out of Africa transformed the myth of a great writer into the shared experience of a life lived with clarity, generosity, wisdom, and courage. By unveiling her charm, it magnified her enchantment. It placed in our bloodstream the African earth, still reverberating from the native dances and the charging rhino, and offered the greatest romance of all, finding the heart to see and perform our destiny, urging us to make art of our nourishment.